Okay. Let's carry on a little bit, and then we can take some more questions afterwards. So that is the very important sutta on overcoming unwholesome thoughts and thoughts in general. It's a very interesting sutta, and it is one that I would recommend you to contemplate a little bit, and that will help you in life in general. There are other suttas that kind of go with that one, which we have looked at here before, which are very interesting. One of the most important ones is the one on overcoming ill will or anger, the Abhiṇhapaccavekkhitabbaṭhānasutta, which is the overcoming of resentment, it is often called. Found in the Anguttara Nikaya 5, is number 162, Abhiṇhapaccavekkhitabbaṭhānasutta. But now I want to move on to a other very important subject, which is called the regular reviewing or regular contemplations. And as you will see, that this is, the Buddha recommends that this is done by everyone. And it's interesting, very often you read the suttas and you may, as a layperson, sometimes you may feel a bit left out. It talks about mendicants all the time, and even the nuns might feel that because it talks about bhikkhus all the time. But please don't feel left out whether you are a bhikkhuni or a layperson, because many of these suttas are meant for everyone. And what is interesting about the sutta which comes now is that it is specifically said to be for both lay people and mendicants, both monastic, both those gone forth and those living the home life. So this is kind of very specific about that. So this means these are very important and universal objects of contemplation, valid for everyone, and therefore also very powerful. Very powerful. These are right views, ways of thinking about the world that lead to a peaceful mind, lead to all kind of good qualities, allows you eventually to succeed in your meditation if you take these things seriously. These are subjects of meditation or subjects for reviewing you can use any time. You can use it in the morning when you wake up, when you go to bed at night, when you are at work, when you kind of you go 5 minutes to the toilet, you can kind of use these contemplations almost any place. And that is useful because we need to take all opportunities on this path. So you will know these contemplations already because I tend to teach them on all retreats, but nevertheless they are useful to have a look at. So this is how it goes. Subjects for reviewing. Mendicants. A woman or a man, a layperson or a renunciate should often review these 5 subjects. What 5? I am liable to grow old. I am not exempt from old age. A woman or a man, a layperson or a renunciate should often review this. I am liable to get sick. I am not exempt from sickness. A woman or a man, a layperson or a renunciate should often review this. I am liable to die. I am not exempt from death. A woman or a man, a layperson or renunciate should often review this. I must be parted and separated from all I hold dear and beloved. A woman or a man, a layperson or renunciate should often review this. I am the owner of my deeds, and heir to my deeds. Deeds are my womb, my relative and my refuge. I shall be the heir of whatever deeds I do, whether good or bad. A woman or a man, a renunciate or layperson should often review this. So these are the 5 things to be recollected. And what you can see here, what is interesting about them, is that they are very ordinary things. Very straightforward things. They are kind of things that we deal with all the time, except for maybe the last one, which is about karma. That is not so obvious. But all of the other ones are very, very obvious and kind of in your face. And so what is beautiful about this is precisely the fact that it is ordinary. It is easy to do, easy to understand. We know straight away what these things actually mean. And of course, they also are reflected in the first noble truth. As I mentioned before, the first noble truth is, first of all, jati pidukkha, so birth or rebirth is suffering, and then you have jara pidukkha, old age is suffering. Same thing as you have here, vyadi pidukkha, same thing we have here, illness. Maranam pidukkha, death is suffering, also you find it here. So it is, you can see again how all of these things, they tie together very, very powerfully across a variety of suttas. The suttas are like a complete tapestry, and you understand how they kind of interweave and they create this complete picture. And this is just one angle from which to view this particular picture, this particular sutta. And one of the things that also very fascinating, the Buddha to be, before the Buddha's awakening, these are the things that made the Buddha to be go forth. This is why we have the Dhamma in the world, because the Buddha thought about these particular things. This is found in a number of suttas, but especially the beautiful Abhiṇhapaccavekkhitabbaṭhānasutta Sutta, the noble search, where the Buddha distinguishes between the noble search and the ignoble search. And the noble search comes from this realization that I must die. That I am subject to old age, to illness. There it also has subject to defilements, so corruptions it also has in there. It also has subject to rebirth, so it has a variety of things. But certainly death is one of the critical ones. I am subject to that. Why then search for other things that are also subject to that? Why tie myself to a family? Because he obviously goes forth, so he kind of gives all of that up. You find it there. You also find it in one of the other suttas, the Sukkumala Sutta, which talks about where the Buddha was brought up in great comfort, and then he reflects on old age and illness and these things. According to the tradition, the Buddha sees the old man, the dead man, and the sick man, and that is just a tradition. It is not actually, that's more like a kind of it's like a slightly artificial way that actually it is put together as a story about past Buddhas. But the way the Buddha talks about his own life is always about actually reflecting on these realities of existence. That is, I think, the most obvious way that what actually happened to the Buddha, rather than being locked up in the palace and never seeing sickness and old age. That's a little bit too good to be true. That's not what happens to human beings. So these other ones are much more realistic. And also they are the ones that actually refer to the Buddha, not a past Buddha, which is the other one. So very interesting, all of these various angles, all of these threads coming together, in the Dhamma in this particular way. So it is really worthwhile reflecting on it a little bit, and it's kind of simple. So let's have a look here. What is the advantage for a woman or a man, a layperson or renunciate, of often reviewing this? I am liable to grow old. I am not exempt from old age. It's a good question. What is the point, right? Is it just to be tortured, or does it have a point to it? Sounds like Buddhists like to torture themselves by thinking these things, right? So why? There are sentient beings who, intoxicated with the vanity of youth, do bad things by body, speech, and mind. Reviewing this subject often, they entirely give up the vanity of youth, or at least reduce it. This is the advantage for a woman or a man, a layperson or renunciate, of often reviewing this. I am liable to grow old. I am not exempt from old age. So, knowing these things, the earlier you know it, the less liable you are to do silly things, because you are intoxicated. I am young and strong. I can do what I want. And then you end up making lots of bad karma and kind of reducing any spiritual potential for the future, and also kind of creating a bad future for yourself. Instead, you remember that. And so this is very, very powerful. And it doesn't take long usually before we get older. It usually happens so fast that before you know it, kind of your life is kind of vanishing between your fingers. I think about my own life. It's only yesterday since I was 30 or 20 years old. Actually, it's a long time ago already, but it seems like yesterday. And it just disappears, and it kind of goes away. And if you are so lucky to already see the signs of old age, as soon as you reach a certain age, those signs become very obvious. Maybe the very first signs may come already in your 30s or something. You can see maybe the first gray hair coming, or the first little wrinkle. Bang! There it is. You look yourself in the mirror. You wake up one morning, and for the first time, you see it's like, wow, what's going on? That is an opportunity. That is a chance to let go of some of the intoxication, of accepting the reality of the nature of the body. And the moment you accept that, you let go a little bit. You don't hold on so much anymore. If you look at yourself in the mirror and you see that, first of all, you reject it. You feel repelled by the idea of old age. It is not nice to see kind of little wrinkles and gray hairs and things happening to the body. It is not nice. But that is precisely why it is interesting. That is the moment. The reason why it is not nice is because you are attached to the idea of youth. You are attached to your body in a certain way. And by saying, wait, let me stay with this for a while. Let me find ease with this. The moment you find ease with it, the reason you find ease is because you are letting go a little bit at that moment. So stay with it. Yes, I'm getting older. You're losing that intoxication with being young. You're giving it up. It doesn't have the same power over your mind. You don't think that the answer to having gray hairs is to color your hair. That's what most people think is the answer. I just color it, no problems. I can still be young. No, you can't be young. You're just fooling yourself, for goodness sake. Much better to accept it. This is the way it is. Okay, I will deal with it. And that is far better, far more useful, especially if you are serious about the spiritual practice. And so this is kind of the idea here, giving up that vanity, allowing reality to sink in. Then you give up that stupidity. You become grounded, and what you find, which is very interesting, your mind becomes more peaceful. The moment you accept reality, you actually feel peaceful at that moment, because you're letting go a little bit. That leads to peace. So the contemplation of old age, when done properly, when seen as a reality, even if you are so young, you don't even have gray hair, a single gray hair, the gray hairs are inside of you waiting to come out. They're already there. You already have them. These are all kind of there inside of you. The old age, the youth, everything is right there. And so the old age is sitting there, waiting to show its face. One of the nice things to do, as I remember some time ago, there was this software where you can kind of load up a picture and they would show you what you looked like in 10 years' time or 20 years' time. Remember that software? Try that. It's kind of cool, you think, wow, and see how you react to that picture, The younger you are, the more you should do it. Because it's difficult to reflect on this when you are really young. And if you feel repelled, that means you have some work to do, right? That's kind of the answer. And usually the reality is that still they tend to flatter you, those pictures. They're not really real enough. The way you're actually going to look is... it's a bit of flattery in there. Usually it's even worse, I think. That's kind of the reality. Someone tried it for me. They said, this is what you're going to look like in 20 years. That's what they did. I said, thank you very much. So it's kind of, it is actually quite nice. Anyway, so this is the idea here, with the idea of the growing old contemplation, It is waiting inside of you, waiting to come out. Don't think you can stop this with... what was that? So there you are. Anyway, so that is the first one, this idea of old age. Let's move on to the second one. What is the advantage of often reviewing, I am liable to get sick? I am not exempt from sickness. There are sentient beings who, drunk on the vanity of health, do bad things by body, speech, and mind. Yeah, I am healthy, yay, I can do whatever I want, I can play around, run around, do naughty things. Naughty things are fun. Reviewing this subject often, they entirely give up the vanity of health, or at least they reduce it. This is the advantage of often reviewing, I am liable to get sick, I am not exempt from sickness. Yeah, so again, the idea of being healthy can be intoxicating. We feel strong, we feel like really, you feel good in your body sometimes. And then one day you get sick and it's kind of yucky. You know, I don't know if you get sick very often. I don't get sick all that often, but occasionally I do get sick, like once every decade or something like that. I get a bit sick. It's true, I don't get sick very often. I get maybe a little bit, you know. I guess I'm lucky, maybe I have some good genes or something. But then when you feel sick, it's like so terrible, just lying there moaning in bed. You know, the feeling. It's actually really terrible. And you have completely forgotten about that in the meantime, what it feels like to be sick. And so it's a reminder, and of course as you get older, you tend to get more and more sick, more and more things go wrong. And that sickness is a reality. The sickness is already inside of you waiting to come out, just like the old age. When you get sick, never think something is wrong. This is the nature of the body. Sickness is just as much the nature of the body as health is. And once you come to that conclusion, this is the way the body should be, again it puts you off the body. If this is the nature of the body, it should have cancer, it should have heart disease, it should certainly have colds and flus every now and again, that's absolutely sure, but it should have all of these other things as well. When you get cancer, don't be surprised, of course you're going to have cancer. Are you surprised at getting cancer? When you go to a doctor says you got cancer, oh yeah, I expected that. That's when you show that you have understood what is going on. Ajahn Brahm tells a story of the famous monk here in Malaysia, Kesari Dhammananda. Yeah, and very beloved here in Malaysia, I understand, because he was such a... there he is on the wall over there, that's him over there. And Ajahn Brahm knew him a little bit, and they were kind of two birds of a feather. They'd love to have fun and enjoy, and they would kind of have jokes together, whatever. I've never met him, but... And Ajahn Brahm told me the story that when he went to hospital, and not, maybe a few years before he died, and apparently the doctor said, you got cancer, I think is what he said, and he started laughing. It was like, I don't know why he laughed, but probably because he was kind of expecting that. Yeah, of course you got cancer. Yeah, that's life for you. And so this is the idea. So how do you react to that illness? And if you react like that, you know this is the nature of the body. What does that do? It makes the body much less interesting. Yeah, if this body gets old and the old age is in there already waiting to come out, if this body can get sick at any time, why on earth are we so attached to this thing? Much better to be attached to a beautiful mind in that case. This is one of the reasons why you want to develop a mind that is independent of the body, a mind that is pure, a mind that is bright, a mind that has a happiness that is apart from the body. Then you become also very resilient. You can deal with those illnesses, right? This is kind of the point. You build up resilience by practicing the spiritual path. And then when the body goes wrong, you're not really so surprised. Yeah, so this is kind of the idea behind this. This is how you understand that illness. So when you get sick, don't run to the medicine cabinet straight away. Don't run to the doctor, say, doctor, something is wrong. Wait a little bit. Say, okay, let me feel this sickness first of all. Let me know that this is the reality. Let me know that it cannot actually, in the end, it cannot really be cured. It will always return. This is the reality. And then go to the doctor and say, oh, doctor, something is right with me. And then you go to the doctor, and then maybe they can fix you up, if you're lucky, but you have already contemplated the reality of that body. This is the way it is. And so then you lose that attachment to the body. You lose that sense of how this body is so important. Yeah, and that sobers up the mind. It gains clarity. Again, a reduction in attachment leads to an increase in clarity. And this is what happens when you contemplate these things in the right way. So this is the contemplation of illness or sickness of the body. So that is the sickness. The next one is the contemplation of death. But that is so important, it's the most important one of all of these ones, that I'm not going to talk about it now, because I want to reserve the best for the last session here. Death is the best, right? So instead of doing that, I'm just going to open up for some more questions, and then we get back to this later on. There was a lady at the back who wanted to ask, who didn't get a chance before. Yeah, so maybe give her that opportunity first.
Ajahn, it was related to the earlier sutta about the bad thoughts. I was wondering, the mind that has the understanding of Dhammanupassana, understanding that bad thoughts are just phenomenon, causes and conditions, where would this fall within the five?
So understanding that bad thoughts are bad thoughts?
Yeah, seeing that it's anicca, dukkha, anatta.
Yeah, okay.
Or is it not relevant in this sutta?
Yeah, no, I think it is relevant. I guess the interesting thing is that the Buddha doesn't say that is a method. That's kind of interesting, right? He doesn't say that. So maybe you're using the wrong method.
I was thinking, would it be related to an aspect of wisdom, of
right
view?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose what you are doing when you think of it as anicca, anatta, and dukkha is that dukkha is kind of similar to the second one. Yeah, you understand the danger of the thoughts. That's kind of related to that one. So that kind of fits in there. If you think of it as anicca and anatta, I suppose what you're doing is you're taking away the interest in the thought and you're looking at the broader picture. And so it's a bit like taking away the thought formation. You're no longer focusing on creating the thought, and you're looking at it from a Dhamma perspective. So you're no longer creating that thought anymore, I suppose. I suppose it falls maybe under that one, under those two areas, maybe.
So would that be the first one, seeing it as Dhamma?
So seeing as when you see it as dukkha, that is like the second method, yeah. And the seeing it as non-self and anicca might be a little bit like the third or the fourth one.
The one which stops the formation of thought.
Stop the formation of thought and also forgets about it in a sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the end, if it works for you, that is the most important thing. But also try these methods here as well, because the Buddha talks about them, means that they are powerful. So see if you can make them use as well. Yeah, great.
Suki Hontu Ajahn. I have a few questions on this. First one is this regular reviewing, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's only on a knowledge level. We haven't internalized it.
Yeah.
So one is, how do we do that? How to internalize this? Because when you internalize, it can go two extremes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, the way to internalize it is just to carry on reflecting on it. All of these reflections are superficial when we start out. When we start out, it's like, yes, I know I'm going to die. And then one day, help, I'm going to die. Yeah, that's when it kind of really sinks in. And so it's always like that. It takes time to make this real. If you can really feel in your bones that when you leave this building or you go down the stairs, I recommend you to take the stairs. Don't take the lift. Stairs are more difficult. You can do death contemplation just by walking down the stairs. If you can make it real that when you leave this building you might die because a car might hit you or whatever, if you really feel that you can die, That is when it becomes real. You have to really feel it. It shouldn't just be a thought. You should feel it emotional. That's why when you know you have internalized it.
Because, okay, let's say you put it that way lah. Then, okay, I did this with my kids. So they say, "Mommy, why are you so negative?"
Why are you so what?
Negative. Life, we only live life once. But
YOLO, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So when I want to try to practice this with them, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't go the right way.
How old are your kids?
15 and 14 now.
15 and 14, okay.
Every year I've been coming to you with questions.
Yes, no, I do remember you. I recognize your face, so I know exactly. Yeah.
So first I did the death contemplation, which is last year you told me not to do, so I stopped that.
Yeah.
So I started this. Then they said, why are you so negative? Yeah. And then another thing is my girl said, if Mommy, everyone were to think that way, right, then they have no purpose of living already. After all, I'm going to die. I'm going to get sick. So why bother to exercise? Why bother to get a degree? Yeah, why bother, Mommy? Yeah. So you see what I mean, Ajahn? You'll go to that type of extremes.
Well, the reason you should exercise is just because you feel good about yourself, because it makes life right now also better if you exercise. You may live for a few more days. You're going to go on for a while. So the point is, I think that don't try too hard to convert your children. Yeah? they are still young, 14 and 15. Very difficult to reflect on some of these things.
Because I'm fighting against the social media. There's a lot of influencers that tell you live life to your fullest, eat as much meat as you can, all kinds of meat, do all kinds of things. So hence, it's trying to teach them that to like you say, walk the middle path.
Yeah, the thing is that the things that you see on social media are so much easier because it's so much more life-affirming. It's so obviously, from young people, this is obviously the truth. And these things are very counterintuitive for most people, that you should focus on old age. It takes a certain maturity. It takes the ability to see that many of these things in the world are so superficial and are not really important. It takes maturity to do that. And so it's nice that you show them the way a little bit, but don't try too hard. Just kind of plant the seeds, and those seeds will grow when your children are ready. But they may not be too early to expect those seeds to grow too much, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next question is this paragraph whereby you say, "Deeds are my womb."
Yeah.
Why my womb?
You are reborn from your karma, that's why.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you are welcome. Over here, the microphone is coming, you have to... Okay, very good.
Mine is not a question. When you first visited Japan, when you are young, early 20?
21 or something, yeah.
What happened? What made you change your...
Have you read? I have a little booklet called "Why I'm a Buddhist Monk." Have you read that one?
No.
Oh, you have to read that one.
Oh,
It gives you the answer. Yeah.
Okay.
It's available online. Just Google on "Why I'm a Buddhist Monk" and put my name in there, and then you can read it. But I give you an answer in brief because it's kind of maybe unfair to ask you to read a whole booklet. But what happened to me? First of all, I had a very natural drawing towards Asia. I kind of wanted to travel to Asia, and so I got the opportunity. I was a student, and they had an exchange program. I was studying engineering, and so they had this exchange program. And so I went to Japan, and I don't know why I wanted to go to Asia, but it seems like natural and interesting for whatever reason. And then when I went there, I suddenly was staying in a hotel, and in the hotel they had this book, this kind of Buddhist Bible or something like that. You had to convert it to become a Buddhist, maybe. In the night table, it's next to your bed, like they have usually have the Bible there, but this was in Japan, so they had this Buddhist book instead. And so I read that. It's a very well-known Buddhist book. It's a red one, The Buddha's Message or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called. So that was one experience I had there. The second one is the first time I went to see Buddhist monasteries, and I went to see Buddha statues and all these kind of things. And all of these things, they had a kind of familiarity to me. It's kind of strange. So they kind of had a familiarity. And all of that kind of later on led me in that direction. But then when I came back from Japan, and this was maybe this was the most powerful influence of all, my best friend, he had just read this book on meditation. And so he said to me, he had the book and he threw it to me, hey, check this out. Okay, thank you. And so, and this was a book about mindfulness of breathing, but it was a kind of a secular, non-religious context. There was actually an Australian writer, of all things, a very famous writer who has written, I think, millions of copies apparently has sold of these books on mindfulness of breathing, Wilson or something like that, I think his name is. And so I read that and I tried to meditate, and I had some good results in meditation. That was even more powerful, right? So this is kind of how these things came together. Yeah, that's the kind of part of the story. But read the booklet. Okay.
Ajahn, perhaps this is a question, or maybe not a question, but I'd just like to tease your thought on something. Tease it out. You had mentioned about, when you grow old, no point coloring your hair, everyone knows it's growing old. Well, you're a monastic, so you don't have to worry about that. But I hope you're not going to say, well, when you're growing old and you lose your teeth, don't wear dentures. I mean, we must remember these were all written in the days when no dentures were around. So would it not be more sort of accurate or thoughtful to say, as we go through life, perhaps it's being conscious that yes, there's all these modern techniques that help prevent death or make growing old much more easier. And not to be caught up in all that sensual pleasure, but no, it's okay to be caught up in sensual pleasure and eat while you don't have teeth, but also realize that what is it trying to tell us in this 21st century? Thank you.
It's trying to tell us to be realistic about life. That's what it is. To be realistic about what's going on, not trying to hide it, not trying to use cosmetic surgery and Botox and coloring and all of these kind of artificial things. To make, in a sense, we are tricking ourselves. We know we're getting older, but we're trying to hide it even from ourselves. That's the problem. We don't really want to know. That's the truth of it. And so we need to be realistic. We have to be truthful, and then from truth comes wise actions. This is the whole idea of right view leading to right action, or leading to right intention. Sammaditthi leading to sammasankappa. The more clarity you have about what's going on, the more likely you will do the right thing and live in a good way. And so teeth are much more important, than coloring your hair. I mean, fair enough. I absolutely would say go to the dentist. Go to the dentist, do those things. But whether your hair is grey or black, it kind of is not so. It doesn't matter all that much. And that's kind of the point there. And I mean, color your hair. Even if people color, lots of Buddhists color their hair. Okay, fine, do color your hair if you want to. But, it's important to be realistic. That's kind of the bottom line. And if you don't want to color your hair because you want to be realistic, I would say good. That's a good thing as well. I'm just, I don't really care so much what I look like. That's not what the real me is. The real me is the quality of my heart. And that is what we should focus on. If we have a good heart, we will be beautiful people. It's the story of Ajahn, right? The story of Ajahn. You look ugly, but actually look beautiful at the same time. That's the kind of the weird thing here. And that is the kind of beauty that matters at the end of the day, the beauty of character, the beauty of inner qualities.
Many monks and nuns, they shave their head every day. But there's some younger one will say, well, you shave your head all the time because you don't want people to see your gray hair.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay, so let's take a half an hour's break and have some tea, and we'll see you back again at the 3:45.